I'm Natalie Joyce and I'm responsible for social responsibility and sustainability at RiskSTOP Group. Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of our People at the Heart podcast, where we like to chat about all kinds of things, both serious and light-hearted, connected with our team and our work here at RiskSTOP Group. Today, we're diving into a really interesting question. How does theatre influence leadership? When you think about it, the worlds of theatre and leadership aren't as different as they might seem. Both rely on presence, communication, empathy and the ability to connect with people. In theatre, it's about engaging an audience, and in leadership, it's about inspiring a team. Today, I'm joined by Amy Lillington, team leader and brand ambassador for RebuildCostAssessment.com. So, Amy first joined Stagecoach Performing Arts when she was just 4 years old, and it's been a big part of her life ever since. An amazing 22 years later, she's still just as passionate about it. Amy is also involved in performing arts with our Amateur Dramatics Club, along with content here at RebuildCostAssessment.com, including Ask Amy, Office Olympics, and the Tricky Little Trap Rebuild music video. Amy, thank you so much for being here and for being willing to share your story.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Very weird being this side of the questions, though.
I should imagine some of our listeners and viewers are probably pretty familiar with you. So, Amy, to start us off, for anyone who might not be familiar with Stagecoach, could you give us an overview of what it's all about?
Yeah, of course. So Stagecoach is a part-time performing arts club or school. It's founded in 1988 and has many schools sort of up and down the country. And it basically teaches sort of the three disciplines of theatre, so singing, dance, and then drama. And their goal is to help young people develop creativity, confidence, communication through skills of performing arts. It's not just about developing actors as we may probably typically expect. It's about helping people perform better in life rather than on a stage necessarily.
That's a pretty incredible story. So Stagecoach began with just a few schools in Surrey, and now it reaches an amazing 8 countries. So tell us a bit about your own journey with Stagecoach and how it shaped who you are today.
So I started Stagecoach, as you said, when I was 4 years old. And the only reason I joined when I was that age was my mum told me to, and my sister was also going. But I ended up staying there for a total of 17 years, I think, as a student. And I didn't necessarily go there to be an actress or because anything like that. I ended up finding I enjoyed going for just simple things of enjoying the people. I liked the element of routine on a Saturday morning, getting up and being able to do this. So I really enjoyed that. And then as I kind of was there, I kind of drew a very strong connection with the discipline of dance and being able to express myself creatively. A lot of that came from being quite a shy child. I was able to express emotions and feelings through movement rather than words, and I found that quite powerful and something I really liked to do. And then I sort of turned sort of 11 or 12, and I was actually really honoured. We did a Wizard of Oz, Wicked kind of themed show and presentation, and I was cast as Dorothy for The Wiz, and that gave me like a massive confidence boost of, maybe I'm actually quite good at this, and I had my first solo song and everything. But that was quite a big kind of turning point for me because it made me feel like this is something I'm good at and I'm confident with. And yeah, so I think the main kind of thing that Stagecoach has shaped within me is definitely confidence in myself, not necessarily outward confidence in terms of a presenting aspect, but also like an inward confidence of just being very sure of myself. So yeah, being naturally introverted, confidence was never easy, and I've had to kind of grow it and really work hard to do that. But one thing that we'd learned at Stagecoach quite early on was basically going back to basics. So it sounds really weird. The very first thing you learn is how to just stand and just be, and how to just stand with confidence. And that was the first thing that we learned. And I remember like my parents were saying like how myself and Charlotte, we would go on stage and collect an award at school. Like we would do that with so much confidence and calmness. And that was kind of one of the biggest things that I've taken from it, is just this element of confidence.
It's quite difficult to imagine you as a shy child, because I've known you for a number of years and I can't picture that shy Amy. So it clearly has worked. It's worked wonders.
It's good to know.
So it's amazing to think that there's around 60,000 students that take part every single week. So just rewinding again, what first inspired your love of performing in the theatre?
So when me and my sister were really young, we used to put on shows for our parents. And I remember singing things like Hannah Montana, High School Musical. I loved Gabriella from High School Musical, Vanessa Hudgens. So I think it just came from a very simple love of wanting to sing and dance. And as I said, I felt a lot of self-expression through dance in particular. Having been a shy girl, being confident on stage, it was like a very safe place for me to experiment with confidence. That sounds like a really weird thing to say, but it allowed me to have a safe space where I could be noisy and I could be loud, and being that like outside of that was really difficult. So yeah, it just being able to have that safe space for me. It became very addictive. Like that addictiveness of being able to be someone else for a period of time who doesn't care what other people think, and like they can be themselves, and having to be that for me was just such an addictive feeling and something I really loved hanging on to, sort of thing.
So how do you think your background in theatre has shaped the way you communicate with other people?
So when it comes to communication, I do have an ability to adapt very quickly depending on different situations. And I think a lot of it is down to this. And I think using an example of kind of within the show kind of realm, you'll come from having to, potentially perform a really emotional scene and having to be really in touch with a character to straight away a director or someone coming up to you going, so why did you do that? And then you've got to jump to, well, my data gathering brain says this, and you have to then communicate that. Or I don't like that idea, think of something else. And then you've got to go, okay, a quick creative think, okay. And you can kind of see straight away where you just have to learn to be like, and change, and try different things to get the best outcome for that director and that kind of what they want and their vision. The biggest thing that I always pull from is, as well, in terms of just a more general perspective, if you're looking more from a team perspective, will be this art of storytelling. And I do call it an art because I do think if any leader can tell a story, your communication becomes so much more meaningful. And a good example would be communication through change. If you have to communicate a change, I've been in communication before where it's been, this is the change, and now we're moving on. Whereas I like to be more like, I'm going to tell you why we're going to do the change, what the change is going to do, why we're all here. Let's look at it from our team level and then a business level. And now I'm actually going to tell you the change. And I'm going to tell you the benefits of the change. And I would take people through a journey of, this is why we're doing this. You feel free to pitch in, ask questions, but this is my thought process. And I'm going to take you through a story of to how I got here. Being able to tell a story to get your vision across as a leader is so important. And I think a lot of that is down to, in the performance world, having to walk on stage, and before you've even said your first line, an audience member needs to know who you are, where you've come from, why you're in the scene, what's your background, just from a physical aspect, and then your verbal aspect as well.
That's a brilliant example, thank you. We've touched on this, but let's dive a bit deeper. What do you think the similarities are between being on stage and being in a leadership role?
So many. But I think from our perspective, it's a lot of, having confidence in a room full of people, self-discipline, making sure, you have, your values and where you stand, and sort of being very disciplined in that sense. Self-aware, so you know what your values are, who you are. Empathy is a really good one. Being able to relate or empathize with other people, especially definitely in people leadership, it's a very, very important thing to be able to do. Storytelling, communication, we've touched on. Teamwork, working together, especially, from a stage perspective, this is putting on a show potentially. In a team perspective, it can be reaching a goal. And resilience as well is quite a big one for me, because we would say, like, the show must go on regardless, some aspects, there's no one, sort of with my Amdram, there's no understudy. If I'm not there, the show doesn't happen, and you just have to, regardless of what's going on, you just have to get through it. And I think that's quite a big one, especially in leadership, because you can be tossed 101 different scenarios, which have definitely been in the past, and you just have to keep going and just keep moving.
Well, as you've just said, theatre teaches empathy and awareness. How do those qualities turn up in your leadership style?
Empathy is essential to leadership, especially when working with people, as I've said before. So empathy is understanding how someone feels and their thought process. Performing arts obviously teaches this skill through having to put yourself in different characters' shoes. So when you play a part, a role, you have to basically get inside their head and justify all the decisions they make and how they get there and interpret it differently. And my advice to anyone who maybe would like to work on this, don't feel like empathy has to happen in the moment. Sometimes it's okay to just listen, digest, take a step back, and then advise, this is what I think the next step is. And then I think in terms of awareness, looking at things like self-awareness, you have to be aware of how you come across to people and being able to know when to push forward and when to scale back on something. So it's also being aware of what they need and do they need empathy, and kind of knowing when to kind of use that skill.
So knowing when to adapt.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to explore nerves and performing under pressure. So what lessons from managing nerves and performing under pressure have helped you in challenging situations at work?
Yeah, so I think I always kind of look at nerves on a scale. Let's just keep it easy. Scale of 1 to 10. So I'd say 1 to 3. It sounds weird. Just deal with it. Like, everyone gets nervous, and nerves are a really good thing. We say in theatre, like, to have nerves is good, because for me, it's like you care. And also, it's good to be nervous because it actually helps you perform better when you're on stage, because you're very aware of it and you want to do a really good job. So I'd say to an extent, when you're kind of in that 1 to 3, you're a bit nervous, get used to being uncomfortable and having that level of nerves. Moving it up a level, if you're in kind of the 4 to 6 realm, be aware of what helps you feel more comfortable. So for me, a lot of it is research, preparation, and practice. So I've had situations before, if on my way home in the car, I talk to myself and I'll be like, how am I going to handle this situation? Because it helps me feel more comfortable. So I wouldn't say I script out when I come in the next day and do it, but it just helps me. How would I say this? Oh, I don't quite like that phrase. Or I don't quite like that word. But that is my way of researching and prepping and getting support through that. If you're in sort of the 7 to 10 kind of realm where you are really nervous, you're feeling really pressured, don't be afraid to rely on other people. And that can be from a physical sense or just getting advice. So speaking to someone else and saying, how would you handle this? Or would you handle this the same way as me? Or getting that person in the room. And I always say there's always 3 stages to that. It's, I'm going to lead it, so you're going to sit next to me, or we're both going to do it together, or can you lead it and I just watch, because I want to learn how you handle this. And across my leadership, I've used that.
I think there's some great advice in there. I mean, what would you do? What kind of advice would you give to someone who was looking particularly to build their confidence or presence as a leader?
Know your strength and know your style. You need to know who you are and have confidence in who you are, how you're coming across. You need to have that foundation. From there, you can then start to build up on things. You need to know your strengths and you need to know your weaknesses, but don't let your weaknesses stop you. Like, invest into them. So one of my weaknesses that I always feel I have, and people may have different opinions, is I can struggle when dealing sort of face to face with clients. It's just something that I've always had that nerve around. But either way, I still go out with members of our BD, our business development team, and try and get that experience, to try and get that to be improved. Like, I don't run from it. I'm never, oh no, I can't do that. It's, I want to do it. I want to be better at it. And the only way I'm going to do it is to steer into the skid. So I think that's one thing which I think, know who you are, know your weaknesses, but don't hide from the weaknesses, so to speak. Be very strong on your empathy, and make sure, you are aware of how you're coming across, and being able to empathize with others is just such an important skill anyway. Practice your storytelling and kind of your communication. I've said to one of sort of the new team leaders is, if you're going to get good at one thing, get good at communicate and change, and storytelling will help you do that. Because once you're kind of rock solid on that, all your communication becomes very easy after that. Keep showing up, keep challenging yourself, keep pushing yourself. Every time you do something, you get better at it. And then ask for feedback. If you didn't do something well, or someone says something, use that as an opportunity to get better. No one's perfect. I'm sitting here talking about my opinions of leadership. I'm definitely not a perfect leader, but I am open to feedback and improvements on how I can be better for my team or for an individual or in a certain circumstance. So I think it's just a combination of all of that.
Thank you very much. And finally, Amy, if leadership were a stage play, what would its title be?
I would call leadership The Show Must Go On. And the reason for this is because leaders consistently, constantly have to show up for your team, your customers, your people, everyone around you every single day. And I think you have a lot of people looking towards you as a leader, and that your self-motivation has to be so crucial. You have to be able to fuel yourself and get yourself through things in certain situations. It's not about pretending everything is perfect, but it's just about resilience, consistency, leading by example, even on your hardest days.
Amy, you have been brilliant. You have absolutely answered the question, how does theatre influence leadership? Thank you so much for joining us today. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow and share it with someone who'd love to hear more about the link between creativity and leadership. If you want to see more of what we're doing, head to RiskSTOPgroup.co.uk or follow us on social media. And that's all for this episode of our People at the Heart podcast. Thank you everyone for listening in. I, along with one or two other presenters, will be back soon with all kinds of things to talk about with different guests. So keep your eyes peeled for more episode announcements. And remember, here at RiskSTOP Group, it's all about keeping people safe and secure and believing in social responsibility and sustainability. Until the next time, everyone, goodbye for now.